So page 9, today is the 2nd. You can go ahead and title this integer properties. Now today we're going to be going back and forth between Schoology and our notes. So if I were you and you want to make sure that you have Schoology open, I would definitely do that. But if you don't have Schoology open, you'll get a little bit of time in just a few moments to do that. But again, making sure you're going through everything step by step is what's important, okay? So let's go ahead and talk about integers. What on earth is an integer, okay? So an integer, this will be our first vocab term. And we're going to do a big chunk of writing right now. The rest is going to be very quick, I promise, okay? So what is an integer? An integer is the set of all whole numbers
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
It froze.
Okay. Give it a second, because usually when I use my camera it lags a little bit. So give it a few moments and it should eventually catch up, okay? If it doesn't after like a minute or two, then let me know, okay? Now adjust it. The set of all whole numbers and their opposites. Sorry guys, I'm trying to turn on my fan. It's too hot in this room. Alright, that's going to be my try. Okay, so let's look at a number line, okay? Now, I'm going to draw my number line. You might want to wait until after I finish drawing to copy it down. But I'm going to draw a number line with 11, well, let me see how many I'm going to draw. But I'm going to draw my number line just like so. And draw a line straight across, so a number line, just like that. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay? So I did 13 little lines. Okay, so do 13 lines. I am picky about how many lines because once you start numbering it, sometimes it gets a little tricky. You want one line that's kind of a little bit longer in the middle, just like that. This is where we're going to put 0 on our number line. So we know our positive numbers, right? Positive numbers are old news, right? We've done positive numbers, they're good to go. So when I do my positive numbers, we're going to start at 0 and count forward. So for example, my first one would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so I did it all the way from 0 going all the way to 6. Awesome. Now, what we're going to do on the other side is kind of count backwards a little bit. So think about it like an elevator. If I go up 1 floor, 2 floors, 3 floors, it's going to be all positive. But let's say I get onto the ground floor, like a lobby, but then I go underground, like to a parking garage. Then if we go down a couple different floors, each of those are a negative number. So if I go 1 floor below 0, that's going to be negative 1. If I go 2 floors below 0, that's going to be a negative 2. 3 floors will be negative 3. 4 floors will be negative 4. 5 floors will be negative 5. 6 floors will be negative 6. Now again, as you write this, you might be thinking, Mr. Daniel, that's weird. When I count left to right, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it's like I'm counting down. Now it looks a little bit different because with negative numbers, we look at it starting from 0. We always start at 0 because normally this used to be our number line, always positive. But now we're doing both sides. So from 0 to go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, above ground or above sea level, right? That's positive. But to go underground, 1 below 0, that's a negative 1. 2 below 0, it's a negative 2. 3 below 0, so on and so on. Now there's certain properties about number lines in positive and negative numbers that I want us to pay attention to, okay? Now one thing, for example, is the number 0, okay? Number 0 is a special case. Now everyone says, oh, Mr. Daniel, 0 is positive because there's no sign in front of it. Or, oh, is it negative because it starts off the negative? 0 is like that special friend that has all these cool, weird little hobbies and characteristics, but we get it, right? And that's okay. We're going to write down that 0 is neither positive or negative. Zero is not going to be positive or negative. Again, it's one of those special cases. If for some reason it glitches out or anything during our lesson for today, remember this video will be in Schoology. Now, a couple people, again, I can tell when we're not focused on class, okay? Don't be surprised, okay? But hey, that's you, that's 6th grade. You don't want to do it, that's your option, but it's going to be very difficult to do a test or any other assignment. So just kind of keep that in mind, because Mr. Dan can definitely tell when we're paying attention and not paying attention, okay? So let's talk about the values on this number line. So let's look at the numbers the further we go to the right. The further you go to the right side of a number line,
Do we have to use a different color?
no, it's just for me to help you see it a little bit easier. The larger the value. If you want to, you're more than welcome to, but again, I'm not going to wait for you to go pick out 40 different colors, anything like that. So the further you go to the right on the number line, the larger the value. So this is the right direction, okay? So let's think about it. It's going to sound very elementary, so don't freak out, okay? It's a very straightforward question, okay? Let me ask Andrea. Andrea, you can help me out, okay? Don't fear. It's going to be very easy, I promise, okay? Andrea, if I looked at the number 1 and the number 3, what's going to be the bigger number, Andrea? You can unmute your mic and share. Say it again. I can hear you muted again.
Number 3.
Right, correct. Number 3. Andrea, let's say we did 2 and 5. What's the bigger number?
5.
Well, let's say I did 1 and 6. What's the biggest number?
6.
And notice, I know that because it's the one that's furthest to the right side. Okay, so that's something we want to memorize, guys. Anything, whatever number is furthest on the right on a number line is the bigger value. Thanks, Andrea. I appreciate it. All right. Now, there is a difference when we start using our, I'm blanking out, when we start using our going to the left. Now, going to the left on a number line is going to be the exact opposite. So, same thing, the further you go to the and the further you go to the left, and guess what? It's going to be the exact opposite. Okay? Because the further you go to the left, the smaller the value. So it's the same thing as this side, but going to the left means that the value is going to be smaller. So that's something you need to pay attention to, right? The further we go to the left, the smaller the value. Further you go to the right, the larger value. This is going to be something that is so crucial for like this week, next week, and the week after. Because we want to make sure we understand how we can tell if a number is bigger or smaller than the other. Okay? So let me hear from Janine. Janine, go ahead and unmute your mic. You're going to share with me, okay? Janine, what's my bigger number? Is 0 bigger or is 6 bigger?
0.
That's the bigger number. If I have $0 and you have $6, who has more money?
6.
6 is bigger, right? And so notice 0's further on the left side. So that's why that's the smaller value. Okay, awesome. Thanks for sharing. Let me hear from Brooklyn. Brooklyn, go ahead and unmute your mic. Let's say I gave you an example, Brooklyn. We're going to follow these rules. If I put a -3 and a +2, which one's going to be the smaller value?
-3.
Okay, why?
Because it's further you go to the left, it gets smaller.
Great job. Because it's further to the left. So Brooklyn, let's say I said -6 and +1. What's my smaller number?
-6.
It's -6. And some people are so confused, they're like, oh my gosh, how is that even true? Right? Because 6 looks bigger, right? But just like Brooklyn said, it's further to the left side. So our values decrease as we move to the left, and values increase as we go to the right. Great job, Brooklyn. Thank you. All right. What we're going to do now is we are going to do our first Schoology activity. Okay? So I'm going to guide us and walk. What did you write down as an integer, and what did you write down as not an integer? Okay, I think it might have dropped Nicole.
She's not in the call.
Okay, yeah, I might have dropped her. Okay. Then, no worries. We can definitely move forward. Let me hear from then. Bum-ba-da-bum. Sufyan, go ahead and share with me, buddy. What did you put down as an integer, and what did you put down as not an integer?
Wait, hang on, let me get to it.
Okay.
Okay, I put -5 as an integer.
Okay.
I put 10 as an integer.
Okay.
I put 600 as an integer.
Cool.
And I also put -25 as an integer.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Sufyan. Do you want to go ahead and mention the ones that were not an integer, or do you want me to pass it to someone else?
I want to mention that.
All right, go for it, team. Tell me. Oh, sorry. Before you do this, remember, everyone, you're writing in your notebook. Okay, make sure you're writing it in your notes as well. Okay, go ahead.
8/10 is not an integer.
Okay, and thank you for reading that correctly. Awesome. Go ahead.
3/10 is not an integer.
Okay.
-2 and 1/4 is not an integer.
Okay, I think that's it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Sufyan, can you explain to me, how did you know those were not integers, right? This has a negative sign. How did you know those are not integers?
Well, I noticed they were not integers. For the integer that had a fraction behind it, I thought of it as it was not an integer because it had a fraction, and a fraction can't be put as an integer, I think.
Okay, great job. Because if you notice in the definition, it says a positive and negative whole number. So when I count on my fingers, I'm going to go 8/10, 9/10. We don't count usually by fractions, right? So great job, Sufyan. That's great. So that's something we want to make sure that we're all looking at, right? We want to make sure that we understand that integers are positive and negative whole numbers, okay? Awesome. Any questions on that? Javier, do you have a question for me? You can unmute and ask.
I forgot. Is this 4th grade?
For these practice ones, they're just checking our understanding, so making sure we understand the lesson. That's it for today.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
No worries. All right, so let's do the next part. Now that we learned what an integer is, okay, we're kind of comfortable with it, let's talk about opposites. Now again, if you're in my class, you've passed elementary school at some phase, and you should know what an opposite is. The opposite of happy is sad, the opposite of yes is no, the opposite is up and down, and so on and so on. You know all your opposites. With numbers, it's a little bit more detailed on how we know what is an opposite. Opposites are just numbers that are equal distance from 0. Opposites are numbers that are equal distance from 0. Opposites are numbers that are equal distance from 0. So I'm going to show you what that means, right? How do we know it's an opposite? How do we know how many spaces away it is from 0? So on our number, we're going to do a little mini number line with just 5 tick marks, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to make this middle one 0. So I know 1 away from there is 1, 2 away from there is 2. Going back 1 is -1, going back 2 is -2. So let's think about an opposite, right? So let me ask, let me ask Giovanni. Giovanni, go ahead and tell me, if I had to ask you what is the opposite of a positive 2, what do you think the opposite of that would be? Like, what do you think the opposite of a positive would be? Like, kind of based on what we're talking about. Because one side we see positive numbers. What type of numbers are on the other side? Negative, right? So I see those two different types of numbers there on our screen. Thanks for sharing. Okay? So let's look at that. So when I look at it, to go to positive 2, we go 1, 2 spaces, or you can even say 2 units. To go to negative 2, same thing, we go 1, 2 units. So 1, 2 units. Okay, hopefully y'all can see that. I know it's kind of small. So because they're both 2 units away from 0, because notice there's 2 spaces that way, 2 spaces this way, -2 and +2 are both opposites. +2 and -2 are opposites. Okay? Questions on that? Alright guys, I know some of y'all are tired, but we don't gotta talk about it all in our chat box. Thank you. Okay, making sure y'all are using it for only when we do a lesson, okay? So Naviha, I know y'all sharing in there, but go ahead and keep it to yourself. Okay, thank you. Alright, so let's go ahead and go back to Schoology. Keep your notebook open. Going back to Schoology, we will see that we have an assignment that says opposites. If you don't see it, refresh your page because I just unlocked it. So refresh your page. And now you should see the word opposites available. That's the second activity. On the opposites activity, all you're doing is writing and matching the opposite number to the number they give you. So you're writing the number and then the opposite that they give you. For this one, you don't have to write down the work with it. Like you don't have to write down all 5 examples on your notebook, but it is something if you want to write that will help you out later. Okay? So let's take another 3 minutes. So by this time, Mr. Daniel has talked your ear off on instructions. So let's take about 3 minutes. Go ahead and get started. And then we'll come back and talk as a group. We're going to share our answers and what that looks like. Okay? So take about 3 minutes, and then we'll talk.
Already finished.
Awesome. So just hold tight, Amir, and then we'll move on. Amir, you did the... Okay, no, we're good. Never mind. All right, so make sure y'all start on the opposites activity. Some of us not started yet.
That opposites was really easy.
All right, then that's good to hear. Zoha, make sure you get started, ma'am. The opposite activity is waiting for you. Elizabeth, make sure you're doing the opposites activity right now. Annie, make sure you, or Anna, make sure you're doing your opposites activity right now. Sorry, Annie. Keep forgetting. Annie, make sure you're doing your opposites activity right now. About being marked absent because you're not listening. We got Mr. Daniel open, not doing what we need to. Okay. As the lyric, make sure that we're working also. Okay, y'all should all already be started. Again, this is the second time I'm calling your name. At least some of y'all getting it together. Everybody else is going to be marked absent because they're definitely not paying attention. All right, let's take 30 seconds, guys. Take 30 seconds and then we'll review. Okay. Okay. Let's go ahead and review. Okay. Now, one thing I'd like to show y'all, just because, I don't know, y'all thinking I can't see nothing, especially my camera list people, I most definitely can see. Okay. So just letting you know, friendly Mr. Daniel reminder. Okay. Because some of y'all about to get an absence for today. Because again, I don't know. Okay. So in Schoology, I am checking to see who all is submitting their activity today. Okay. So that's one thing. Okay. The other thing is making sure your camera's on. So like when I see my screen, I'm going to show you again. Okay. Okay. Kind of the same thing. I can see all of our wonderful faces here. Okay. So people that don't show up, say hi. Right? People that don't show up, I definitely don't mark you as here, and I probably won't do it later after that. Javier, I'm going to give your answers a shout out, okay? Now for Javier, he did in the first one, his first attempt. Now let's look. The opposite of a negative 34 is positive 34. Positive 2 is negative 2. Negative 12 is positive 12, okay? Because positive 12 and negative 12 are both the same distance from 0. Same exact number of spaces. Even with 843, if you go 843 to the right or 843 to the left, you'll definitely get the same answer. All right, awesome job. Okay, now this is going to be our last part. Okay, I'm going to see if we can do our exit ticket today. That way tomorrow, we can do our game. Because I do have a game for tomorrow, but Like, for example, my other class can't do it because we took a little bit more time in the morning. So I want to make sure we finish everything today so I can let us do our activity tomorrow. So we're going to talk about integer keywords, okay? So if you refresh your page, you'll be able to see that screen. Go ahead and click on where it says integer keywords. Now for this one, you're only going to get one chance to do it. You don't have 5 different chances, okay? You only get one attempt. Now let me explain it to you before you start just plugging in random answers. There's 3 questions. Number 1, in word problems there are keywords to let us know if a number is negative or positive. Question 1, write all the words that are positive. So for example, if I say less, okay, so when if I only have $2 less than my friend, is that positive or negative? That doesn't sound like a negative reaction. A withdrawal. Withdrawal means money is coming out of my account. So if y'all heard of that, withdrawal means money is coming out of my account. So that's going to be a negative word. Above. Ooh, that's a good word for positive. If I go above sea level, I think that's going to be a positive word. So I'm going to check that one off. And you're going to do that for any one of these that you think are going to be positive. For number 2, you're going to check off all the ones that mean negative. So for example, a withdrawal, it's coming out of my account, so that means that it's decreasing. So that's a negative representation. The last one, it says when people are talking, they use phrases to represent a negative and positive number. Read the sentence, and then you're going to tell me whether you think it's a positive or negative sentence. For example, the temperature was 5 degrees below 0. So let me ask, let me hear from Noah. Noah, go ahead and unmute your mic. Noah, if I said the temperature was that many degrees below 0, 5 degrees below 0, do you think it would be a positive or negative number? Negative. Great. And so my choices, it says A is negative, so I'm going to put A for negative. Yours might be different. It just depends. Okay? Any questions? Okay? Yes, Giovanni, what's up? Yes. So positive means, like, think about, like, for example, it says rise. So if I'm rising, is that going to be a positive number representation? Like, is that going to mean, like, if I raise my bank account $5, that's increasing 5, right? So that means it's going up, it's positive. If I said, for example, it falls, like my amount of money fell $10, that means it's going down. So that's negative. So that's what you kind of want to think about it as. Positive means going up or going in a positive trend. Negative means going down or a negative trend. Okay? All right, take about 4 minutes and then we'll go ahead and talk. You only get one attempt, okay? And once you get one attempt, it should show you the correct answers. Now, just don't plug in random things, right? You got to make sure you work through it. Now, when you're done with that, okay, I'm going to show you my notebook very quickly. When you're done with that, we are going to write a list of positive and negative words here in our notebook. So, for example, if this is going to be the last thing in our notebook today, we're going to do integer, keywords. We're going to write our positive words in one line and our negative words in another. Okay? So take that time. Go ahead and look. Okay? These are all the types of keywords that we see from our Schoology activity. Above, deposit, save, we put already, hire. Now deposit means we put money into our account. So in case you're wondering, oh, Mr. Daniel, what does that word mean? Right? It means that we are putting money into our account. Increase.
You wrote deposit twice.
That's okay. Thank you so much. That's why I got white out, guys. And that's reason 410 why you need to be using a pencil. All right? And then I have gain. Okay. The negative words from this activity, if you want, guys, if you go back and look in about a minute or so, it'll refresh with your little bit more accurate score. Okay? Because it's supposed to give you partial points, but I guess it did not. Okay. So for negative words, I gave you all a free one, withdrawal. So that means we're taking money out of our account. Less, so if I have $10 less than my neighbor, that's a negative number. Fall, if the stock market falls 10 points. Decrease. Below. Less than. Spend. And loss. Okay. Now I'm not going to write the ones from our last one where it talks about the, where it talks about like the questions, like the questions that they give. But those are also great examples, so you can go back and check. So right now, if you go back and look, it should have your corrected answers and your scores. So let me look at our score again. Okay, because now our grades are improving magically. So that's totally fine. Okay, so some people's score did go up a little bit. So for example, I had a couple people with 15 points that went up to 21. But these are the words. And one more thing before we kind of wrap up, then I'll take questions. Okay, with these words, you want to understand that some mean a positive number, some mean a negative number. Okay, so that is something you do want to acknowledge. Along with that, those sentences are super helpful in kind of helping you see, positive or negative trends. Tomorrow, we're going to take these words and take these numbers and really start to analyze the different properties of them. In Schoology, again, that's another grade. Okay? But now let's go ahead and look at the next one. Okay? The next one, we're going to do two more things on our notebook. Yeah, two more things. So kind of pace yourself. If you need an extra page, remember, you can go to the next page, keep it as page 9, whatever works for you. The next thing we're going to do is compare and order integers. Comparing and ordering integers. Now, if you did the notes with us yesterday, okay, this is going to be so helpful. Remember, the further to the left we go on a number line, the smaller the value. The further to the right on the number line, the larger the value. Okay? So let me call on someone to kind of talk about this with me. Because we want to make sure we understand how we can find what's bigger and what's smaller in all of our problems. Okay? Let me hear from Brandon. Brandon, go ahead and unmute your mic. Brandon, if I look on my number line, buddy, okay? If I look at 6 and 1, what's my bigger number, Brandon? Is it going to be 6 or 1? Unmute your mic and share.
I have my volume down. Can you say that again?
If I have, okay, so make sure you keep the volume up, right? Because you want to make sure you're hearing me. So if I have 6 and 1, what's going to be my bigger number?
6.
Right, and that's because 6 is further on the right side, right? What about negative 3 and 2, Brandon? Which one's further on the right side of my number line?
2.
2. So because 2 is further on the right side, 2 is going to be the bigger number, okay? So Brandon, let's do one more. I trust in you, okay? Let's try negative 6 and negative 3. Brandon, which one's further on the right side on a number line?
Negative 3.
Negative 3. So is negative 3 going to be bigger or smaller?
Bigger.
Bigger. Okay? And that's usually the most confusing thing kids get. All right? Great job, Brandon. Thank you. You can mute your mic now. So that's what people get confused on most. They're like, oh, negative 3, that's smaller, right? Because it's a 3. But no. Right? The further on the right side of my number line, the larger the value. So negative 3 is actually bigger than negative 6. Another way to think about it is, for example, if you were losing money, okay, what's worse, losing $3 or losing $20? Losing $20 is worse. So I'd rather lose $3. Okay, so that's kind of like you can think about it in your head, ooh, I want to lose $3 rather than losing 20. So that's why negative 3 is greater. So that's what you want to make sure you understand. Now when we do our activity, we're going to be using our inequality symbols. Some of you need a reminder, right? So for example, we have our less than symbol. Now remember, all of our inequality symbols, some of y'all might remember it as the Pac-Man, some of you might remember it as all these different things. Remember, our inequality symbol eats up the bigger number. We have greater than, and of course we have equal to. Now, I'm not going to rewrite the number line again because you have a number line at the top of your paper. So I'm not going to rewrite it 2 or 3 or 5, 10 times, okay? You can still use that number line at the very top. So let's do an example. So let's say I'm comparing 2, and I'm comparing it to the number 6, okay? So if I look at the number 2 and number 6, no brainer, right? Tell me, let me hear from Abigail. Abigail, go ahead and unmute your mic. Is negative 2 less than 6, or is negative 2 greater than 6, or is negative 2 equal to 6?
Negative 2
Less than 6. So I'm going to have it open up that way. And you can even make it look fun. I used to love doing this in middle school. I would put little teeth on it, right? If you want to make it eat up the number 6, right? Maybe Mr. Janice is weird that way, and that's okay, right? We just embrace it and keep moving on, right? So it eats up the number 6. So let's do another one. Let's do negative 5 and positive 2. Okay, so here's question 1. Here's question 2. All right. Amoge, you can go ahead and unmute your mic. Is negative 5 going to be less than 2, or is negative 5 going to be greater than 2? Or is it going to be equal to 2? What do you think?
Less than?
Mm-hmm. Why? Why did you say it's less than? I think it's greater than because 5 looks like a bigger number. So what's your defense?
Well, it's negative 5. And 2 is positive, so I would think a positive number would be greater than a negative number.
Great observation. Thank you, Emily. Positive numbers are always greater than a negative number. Always, always, always greater than. All right? We're going to do 3 more examples, and then I'm going to let you do the exit ticket. Or, not the exit ticket, sorry, the practice. So let's do... Let's do negative 6. What is it compared to negative 1? All right? Negative 6, and we're comparing it to negative 1. Sorry, let's do it the other way. Sorry. Let's flip these around, because I'm just thinking, okay? So let's do negative 1 and negative 6. So let's flip those around, because I just want it that way. If I look at negative 1 and I compare it to a negative 6, tell me, let me hear from Amir. Amir, go ahead and unmute your mic. Do you think negative 1 is going to be less than negative 6? Do you think negative 1 is going to be greater than negative 6? What do you think? Amir, are you talking to your mic, buddy? I can't hear you. Okay. If you want, you can share it in the chat. Okay, Amir, we can do that if it's not working. Okay? Jaden, did you want to volunteer or did you have a question? All right, Jaden, go ahead and help him out because I think we have a little bit of technical issues. That's okay, Amir, no worries. All right, so Jaden, do you think negative 1 would be less than, greater than, or equal to negative 6?
Greater than.
Ooh, very good answer, right? So tell me why. Why do you think that? Because someone told me that negative 6 should be bigger because it looks bigger. Why do you think negative 1 is greater than negative 6?
Because it's closer to the positive numbers, and the more left you go, the less it.
The smaller the value. Great answer, team, right? So the further, and I'll go back to our number line, right? The further on the left side, sorry, I was just dancing, Jaden, don't take it, I'm just loving your answer, team. So if I go further to the left, the smaller the value, further to the right, the larger the value. So Jaden said, oh, well, negative 1 is closer to positive numbers than negative 6. So negative 1 is further to the right, so it has to be the bigger number, and he's true, right? Negative 1 is greater than negative 6. All right, let's do 2 more. Number 4. Let's do negative 4. No, yeah, let's do negative 4, and let's compare it to 0. Negative 4, and I want to compare it to 0. All right? Sayona, go ahead and unmute your mic. What do you think, or what symbol do you think I would use? Okay? What do you think I would say for negative 4 and I compare it to 0? What would be my inequality symbol that I use? Is negative 4 less than, greater than, or equal to 0?
I'm a bit confused with this one.
Okay, so let's look at it back on our number line. Always go back to this number line we have, right? So say I have negative 4 over here, and 0 is over here. So let's just think about negative 4, right? The smaller number is the one that's further to the left side, right? And the bigger number is further to the right side. So which one's further to the left side in this problem?
0.
If I use this hand, right? If I use this hand, which one's further to the left side?
4.
Right? The negative 4, right? And according to my rules, it says the further you go to the left, the smaller the value. So negative 4 is going to be smaller because it's further on the left side. 0 is going to be bigger because it's on the right side. Do you see how I'm explaining that?
Yeah.
Right? So because 0 is on the further to this side, it's going to be bigger. Okay? So what do you think I would say for this question? Would I say negative 4 is greater than, negative 4 is less than, or is negative 4 equal to 0? What do you think? Because remember we said negative 4 is further to the left, right? So we said that it's what? Smaller or larger?
Larger.
Let's look. If it's further to the left, what is it? Is it?
No, it's smaller.
It's smaller, right? So negative 4 is going to be less than, right? Because it's smaller. So negative 4 is less than 0. So that's how I got that number. Okay? Awesome. All right, we are going to do one more. Okay. The last one we're going to do is we're going to order some numbers. Okay, so I'm going to give you a set of numbers, and you are going to tell me how we're going to order. Okay, so for number 5, this will be the last example. We're going to have to do one more section here, but this will be our last example for comparing and ordering. Let's do... I'm going to use a little bit bigger numbers, okay? So we want to think outside our number line. So let's do negative 50, 30, 0, negative 40, and 70. Negative 50, 30, 0, negative 40, and 70. I want you to put it in order from least to greatest. Now, of course, I'll work it out with you, right? Because this is our first one kind of ordering. Least to greatest. This is me also writing, so I'm giving you a little bit of time. Okay, so let's think about it, okay, because I want to go ahead and start with my smallest number. Now remember, according to what my rules say, the smallest number is the furthest to the left on a number line. So whatever number is going to be furthest to the left side, all right? Valentina, go ahead and unmute your mic. Which one do you think is going to be furthest to the left side? So, I mean, you can use our number line at the top as like an example. Which one's going to be further to the left side? What do you think? Right, the negative 50. Great job. So negative 50 is going to be the smallest number, because if I think about it in my head, negative 50 is going to be all the way 50 spaces to the left. So negative 50 will be furthest. Awesome. What about my next one? Let me hear from... So I got negative 50 done. Let me hear from Arshan. Arshan, go ahead and unmute your mic. what would be my next smallest number on my number line? And you can unmute your mic. All right, Arshan, what do you think? What would be my next smallest number on my number line? Say it again. Okay, type it in the chat. Type it in the chat. Yeah, because I don't know why it's sounding a little bit weird and it's kind of a little bit quiet. That's okay. All right, type it in our chat so we can kind of look and see if we got the same answer or if we got something a little bit different. All right, Arshan, did you type that in the chat? Okay. All right. Let me get another volunteer then. Okay, no worries, buddy. Let me hear from Joseph. Joseph, go ahead and unmute your mic. I want you to share with us, team, what do you think would be my next smallest number? Joseph, are we here this morning? Otherwise, I got marked as absent, team. All right, maybe Joseph is not here because I don't see his camera on either. So maybe we gotta go ahead and mark that as absent. Okay. Let me hear from James. James, go ahead and share with this team. What would be my answer for that next one? Okay. What would be my answer for, or what would be my next smallest number? What do you think?
Negative 40.
Negative 40. That's the next one that's going to be furthest to the left side on my number line. Then from there, I can look at my positive numbers. My next one, if I keep going my number line, would be 0. After that, my next one would be 30. And my greatest number here, because I know my positive greater numbers, would be 70. So that would be the correct answer. All right? Question. Our last kind of property for today we're going to talk about is absolute value. Absolute value. Now remember, I will post these in Schoology tomorrow because I will like posting it after all my classes have the notes. So if you have messy notes, that's okay. Try to take notes while we talk so that way you can get some of the information, in your head. And that way, if it looks so messy you can't read it, you got notes from me. Okay, so don't worry if you're having a hard time with that. So let's talk about absolute value. Absolute value is the distance the number is from 0. The distance that a number is from 0. The distance a number is from 0. So just like with the frog and flea activity we did, we said, oh, starting from 0, call it bunny hops, use your finger, whatever you want to call it, but I'm counting how many spaces am I going from 0 to that number. That's what we call absolute value. Now there's two things about absolute value you want to make sure that you remember, okay? So the two important things about absolute value is that there's one way that you can write absolute value. So for example, you might see me use two lines with the number in the middle, okay? So don't get confused, that's not 121, okay? There's two lines, kind of think about it as a field goal, like in football. So you see a field goal and a number in the middle. These numbers, or these little signs, means absolute value. And this is asking the absolute value of 2. So when you see the little field goal and the number in between, that means what is the absolute value of 2? Now, notice every time I ask that question, hey, how many spaces away is it from 0? How far away is it from 0? This many from 0. It's always a positive number. Nobody said it's negative 5 spaces away from 0. No. When you play Monopoly, you don't say, hey, I moved negative 5 spaces because I lost a turn. No. All right? We always say it in a positive number. So that's something to remember also. Absolute value is always positive. Always, always positive. Always, 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 always positive. Okay. And I can see y'all's faces, so I see some of y'all still writing, so I'm going a little bit slower. Okay, so don't worry. Okay, I don't want to rush too much. I also can't wait forever on the question, but I don't mind giving a majority of us that time. I like that I can see y'all writing. That's what's going to help you out, guys. When we do tests or quizzes, you have those notes. It's going to help you out. So definitely make sure you use them. Okay, so I'm going to do a number line, a very, very small number line. So on my number line, it's just going to be 5 little tick marks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. It's a small little number line. Zero is going to be in the middle. So that means I have 1, 2, and the other side I have -1, -2. So let's answer some of these questions. So let's talk about what does absolute value mean when they ask me. So for example, let's say, what is the absolute value of 2? Let's go to that original question we wrote down. So you can see the field goal, that's what I call it, the field goal of absolute 2, or the, whatever, however you want to memorize it. So let me hear from Zach. Zach, go ahead and share with us. Absolute value is asking me, how many spaces is 2 away from 0? So if I look at 2 all the way here, Zach, how many spaces is that from 0? You can unmute your mic and share. 2. It's just 2 spaces. So when they say, hey, what's the absolute value of 2? You just reply back, 2. And that's it. The absolute value of 2 is 2. Make sure y'all are writing with me. I see some of y'all looking at the wall, trying to count the number of cracks in the wall. I mean, I know I do that when I'm bored, but not in the middle of class, so make sure that you're writing with me. Don't just depend on my notes. Okay, this is the absolute value of -1. Okay? Absolute value of -1. Let me ask Uzu. Uzu, go ahead and you can unmute your mic. If I have -1 all the way here, how many spaces is -1 away from 0? It's just 1 space away from 0. So when they say, what is the absolute value of 1? It's just 1. That's it. It's just going to be 1. Great job. Thanks for sharing that, Uzu. And remember, this doesn't mean opposite, right? That's something else. Because if I said opposite of 2, that would be a -2. But look, it's positive. Absolute value, you can think about it as absolutely positive. All right? Absolute value is absolutely positive. Okay? Any questions? Anyone? Let's do 2. I'm going to put 2 on here. I'm going to give you about a minute. I want you to answer these, okay? Try these out. Do that one. And let's do one more positive and one more negative, okay? Take about a minute, okay? Because while I'm talking, should be enough time to write. Take about a minute. Do those 2 questions, okay? Take a minute and do those 2 questions, and then we'll review.
Mr. Daniel,
Yes.
can we also draw the number line?
Yeah, you can put it on the number line too. If that helps you out, it might be hard to get to 32, but if you want to use like part of the number line to help you, that's okay. No problem.
Okay.
Mr. Daniels, I don't understand the question.
Okay, so what do those 2 lines mean, Isaac? What do we say those 2 lines mean?
Equal?
Not equal, right? Look over here. The 2 lines mean absolute value. Okay, so it's mean find out how far away from 0 that number is. Alrighty. Alright, those are quick ones. We're just going to review that, do a practice, and then do one last thing, and we're done for the day. Okay? Let me hear from Abby. Abby, you are our lucky contender on The Price is Right, ma'am. Okay? I forgot if your mic isn't working or not, but let's see. With these two questions, what did you get for the absolute value of negative 12 and the absolute value of 32?
For negative 12, I got 12, and for 32, I got 32.
Great job. Perfect, Abby. And notice we didn't change it up, right? We didn't say, oh, it's a negative 32 or it's a negative 12. No. Our answers are always positive with absolute value. Okay? So that's something we want to make sure we do every single time also. Absolute value is absolutely positive. Awesome. Questions on that? Confusions, doubts, concerns, feelings, emotions. Good. Alive. Breathing. Great. Okay.